Hello, welcome to the Tools menu module. We're going to pop right in here and explore the first item on the Tools menu, which is New Order, which can also be reached by pressing F9. We'll click here, and instantly what will pop up is our New Order window showing us where the prices are, and that we can instantly click buy or sell to immediately get into a position. This is called a market order, and you are filled at the prevailing price basically in your market order. Okay, so some of the other options here. Let's look. You want to change markets. There we go. Euro dollar, US dollar, dollar franc, pound dollar, whichever you are choosing to trade. Change the volume here. You can set your stop loss, and you can see it goes close to the. All you do is click on that, and it goes close to the price that you're at. Now you're setting a stop loss for one or the other. Quite naturally, when you're in a long position, your stop loss is going to be below where you place your order. When you're in a short position, your stop loss is going to be higher than where you place your order. You could set up take profit here too, a single click. If you're in a buy, you take your profit higher. If you're in a sell, you take your profit lower. And you can also set this up for instant execution or even a pending order. Now, in pending orders, you can get in the buy at a limit, and you can see here the little entry price moves down. Okay, it says the open price you set must differ from the market price by at least 40 pips. And I believe this is going to be different with different brokers. So you can set that up to be different with different brokers. Okay. Because as not all brokers have the same margin requirements necessarily, their requirements for the placement of orders as well are different. Now here you can see the stop loss line move. There we go. Move it. Scroll down there, and you can see the take profit line move too. It's very, very handy. It's nice to be able to see these types of things. Now you've got a variety of things you can do here. You can expire this order at a particular time, or you don't have to. A couple different things you can do: buy limit, sell limit, buy stop, and sell stop. All great things to have in our arsenal as we trade. And again, back up here, another option will be the volume, and volume will be particularly important. And this is the actual lot volume. Okay, it's not the volume of the market itself, like how many contracts are traded overall. This is what you're doing as far as your lot size is concerned. There's one lot, 2, 3, 4, up to 8 in this particular case, and it's set up this way based upon the amount that you open your demo account with. So we got a lot of flexibility here. Okay, that's basically the order window. It's very intuitive and easy to use, and very, very straightforward. Now let's pop over to the History Center. In the History Center, we've got an opportunity to gather even more information and download more history for the particular time frame we're interested in studying. You can see here in the 1 hour charts, we're basically starting the data back on the 12th all the way to the 19th. Now we're interested in editing this data. You could easily do this. You could edit the data. You could delete that data. You can export that data in the form of a .csv, file. You can also import data. Should you have particular data files with lots of history that you want to import, you can do that as well. Let's say, for instance, let's pop back over here. Their database, 7,537 records. Let's download. Now, what it'll say is you're going to download from MetaQuotes Software Corporation history, but your account is open with Alpari. This is where the demo account is open. And it says, please do not forget that the downloaded history data can differ from the data stored on the trade server. This is why this data cannot be used in disputes over historical prices with Alpari. If you still want to continue, press OK. We're in a demo account, and for looking at more history, we want to press OK. You can see what will happen. Sometimes this will take a bit of time in order to complete. We can just see the start of the green bar there as it moves along. And rather than have you watch this entire thing, I'll pause this and we'll come back to it. Now when we look at our hourly data, you'll notice that it goes back a lot further than the 12th of October as shown initially here. So we've successfully downloaded additional data with which we can study the euro dollar US dollar. You can do this for each of the currency pairs that you're interested in and get more history in order to get more data to study. All right, let's close this out. And let's move on up here. We've covered History Center, global variables. Now, global variables allow for a number of things. This is something that is a bit more advanced, but sometimes there is a need to interchange information and to provide possibility of prompt transfer of moderate amounts of information among experts, as well as organized conflict-free simultaneous working of several experts. So that is what global variables allow for. The values are saved between terminal launches. Unlike those of variables claimed at a global level, they are set at every expert launch and lost at every expert remove. So that's separate for those non-global variables. Global variables are available within 4 weeks since their last call from experts or manual modifying. Now, all installed global variables, their values, and the last time they were called will be listed in this particular window. And using the buttons, you can add a new global variable or delete an existing one. You can change the name or value of a global variable, all in here when they are available. Okay, we'll close the global variables window. Let's move on to the MetaQuotes Easy Language Editor. Let me pop this open for us. And there we have it. There's the easy language. It's called the Meta Editor. And as you can see here, this is designed so that you can edit or create expert advisors, and if you want to modify or create indicators, etc., you'll be able to do it inside of the Meta Editor. A lot of people don't necessarily do much in this particular area unless they are creating their own particular types of indicators, or if they're creating their own trading systems, expert advisors here. So let's close that out. You'll know where that is. should you need to use it. And we'll pop down here to options. Okay. Server options here are pretty straightforward. Keep personal settings and data at startup. Enable news. You can enable the news if you want to. You can enable the DDE server. It's a dynamic data exchange server. If you want to exchange data between MetaTrader and another application like Microsoft Excel, for instance. Charts show the trade levels. And this is an example of a trade level up here at the top, the little gray line. It shows where well, actually this is the price level. You see the price level here. And also when there's a trade on, you'll see trade levels that are dotted lines. The green one will say buy, the red one will say sell, and that keeps you in touch with exactly where you are with relation to your trade and the current prices. Show the open, high, low, and close. We like to do that. Show the ask line. If you want to show the ask line, you can do that. You can also show period separators. If you're looking at intraday charts and you wish to see the day start and day end, the trading session day start and day end, you can see that as well. You can click this if you wish to print your chart in color, if you happen to have a color printer. Down here, max bars in history, you want this set to a high number so that you can download lots and lots of bars for intraday studies, such as 1 minute bars. And max bars in chart, 65,000. So you can set it up that way as well. But in fact, let's go ahead and let's set that to a higher number here to match the number of the max bars in history right here. Okay, that's all set. Next, we're going to move on to the Objects tab. We've covered the objects previously, and the objects are such things as the horizontal and vertical lines that we place on a chart in order to mark specific levels or areas that we have an interest in. That can also include trend lines as well. So we can show properties after creation just by clicking that. I leave that open. You can select the object after creation. This is handy when you want to move an object immediately after. You can select the object by a single mouse click as well. And this is particularly handy too, rather than having to double click on the object and then move it from there. Here, where we speak of magnet sensitivity, let's cover this for one moment here. Okay, see that there's varying levels here, magnet sensitivity. Now, you can anchor the checkpoints of objects to different bar prices to locate them more precisely. In this magnet sensitivity field, the option is listed in pixels. So you can define the number of pixels for the level of sensitivity. For example, if you specify this default value of 10, then the object will automatically be anchored to the bar if a checkpoint of the object is located within a radius of 10 pixels from the nearest bar price. That's open, high, lower, close. Now if you want to disable this option altogether, you simply click on 0. And we'll leave it at the default of 10. And then we'll move on to the actual trade menu here. Okay, in our trade window, we have an opportunity to set up some things to happen automatically. Symbol by default, you can set up a symbol you want here, last used, or automatic. Now here, size by default, last used, or you can select which size you want as the default there too. Okay. And deviation by default, you can set it up from 0 to 5 pips. And you use last used here. And the deviation simply accounts for the fact that the symbol price can change within the ordering time. And as a result, the price of the prepared order will not correspond with the market one, and the position will not be open. The deviation option, it helps you to avoid this. It gives you a maximal permissible deviation from the value given in the order that can be specified in this field. Now, if prices do not correspond, the program will modify the order by itself and open a new position. So this just gives you some additional flexibility, and this is all within the, quite naturally, within the order screen that we have had an opportunity to take at previously on the tools menu. Now let's move on to expert advisors. And you have a number of choices here. Allow live trading. You can click that on and off. And you can click this if you want manual confirmation. In other words, you're allowing it to trade in an automatic fashion, except that before the order's placed, you have to manually confirm. Click on confirm in order to place that order itself. Otherwise, if you leave that unchecked, then you allow live trading and things can go on automatically. Okay. You can enable the experts except for custom indicators and scripts. You can disable when the account has been changed, disable experts when the profile has been changed. This gives you some additional levels of flexibility as well. This way, if you're changing to a particular profile, then you don't have to have any of the other residual experts from a previous profile in the new profile. The DLL imports, dynamic link libraries, your expert advisor's manuals will tell you whether or not to allow these, etc. Allow external experts import, which may be information from an expert advisor server as well. Okay, so now to email. For email alerts, you can enable your email server here, and you place your information in here, SMTP server. There's an example right there. Your login, your password, and you can specify a from and a to field as well, and you can also test that right here if you do enable that, so that you can be emailed an alert while you're out on the road if you wish to keep that closely in touch with what is going on at the time. Publisher. This will work if you happen to have an FTP account, and you can actually publish the results of your current account activity. And this is handy. Publishing your account status is handy if you want to share this information with someone or a group of people automatically without sort of emailing each of them individually. This will be put up on, again, up on an FTP server. And FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol, up on the web. Now, only reports of active accounts can be published. If the account number in the given field does not match with the current one, the reports will not be published. So if your account is your actual account is 12345, and you put the account number in here of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, then the account will not publish the account status. Let's move on to events. All right. Now, in this tab, signals of system events can be set up in the terminal. It's a very convenient tool to inform you about changes in the terminal status. Signals can be set up in this tab. For this to be done, they have to be enabled right here. Okay. And let's go through what each of these events are. Connection to the server. The signal you will receive here is in wave format, so this is a sound, and the signal of a successful connection to the server will sound off as you start up MetaTrader. Disconnect, no connection to the server. It's a signal of interruption of connection, and that's a good thing to know as well. Notifying by email. If this signal has triggered, it is recommended that you check the terminal mailbox window down here. So if something's going on, you're being notified by email. Timeout. A certain time range is predefined by performing trade operations. If this range has been exceeded for some reason, the operation will not be performed, and this signal will trigger, and then you can hear that signal. The OK signal is trade operation has been successfully performed. No errors occurred during the performing of this operation. Always good to know. News, receiving of news. If this signal is triggered, it is recommended you go down here and check the news server for if you happen to have news active on your MetaTrader platform. I'll move down here to Expert Advisor. Just let you know when the Expert Advisor, if you happen to have any, is performing a trade operation. This is confirmation, and this request to the Expert Advisor for confirmation of a trade operation. Now this signal can only trigger if the manual confirmation option that we could set back here is checked. Okay. All right. Back to alert. Performing an alert function by an Expert Advisor, and that alert wave will sound. Requote. If the price changed during preparation of a trade operation, then requote will sound the same alert wave as the alert up here. Trailing stops means the trigger of a trailing stop here. It's basically the trailing stop order if it happens to be active. Now, not all of your brokers that will allow the use of the MetaTrader platform will allow trading with trailing stops. So find out ahead of time whether or not the broker that you're going to use will allow the trading of trailing stops. If you don't use trailing stops, then that's fine. If you do, however, it's going to be important that your broker allow that. That covers the options. That also covers all the things here in the tools menu. And next we'll cover the window menu in MetaTrader. Thank you very much. Okay, welcome to the Window and Help menu modules. Previously, we've covered the File, View, Insert, Charts, and Tools menu, and we'll start now with Window. We'll see the first order of business here is New Window. When we click on this, a list of available Forex pairs is going to pop up, and there we have one. that we're going to choose as default, and we'll just click that. The standard chart pops up here, bar chart. Of course, if we wanted to modify that, we go down to our handy templates and we simply change it to any of the templates that we have there. Next order of business is cascade. This is what this looks like. If you want to tab this way and take a look at each of the charts in this fashion, you've got an opportunity to do so. Next is tile horizontally, tile vertically, and you'll see with 4 charts it looks pretty much the same. When you take one or the other chart out, that changes things there. Arrange icons, it's pretty much doing the same as these here are doing. And when you click on any of these items listed here, it immediately goes to the chart. You see that again, highlights the 1 hour, highlights the daily, highlights the 4 hour, and highlights the weekly over here, as you can see. Okay. And the window menu is pretty straightforward, pretty intuitive and self-explanatory, easy to handle. The help menu gives you access to all kinds of information. Basically, a lot of the information that we've covered here and some additional information as well. The community menu right here, the community item, will take you to a place where you can discuss MetaTrader with other traders. This is very, very handy as well. And the About will allow you to see the version of MetaTrader that you're currently using, etc. And that covers the window and help menu. Thank you much. Hello and welcome to our toolbar module in MetaTrader. Let's jump straight in by exploring the standard toolbar, which is right here. And here's something else about toolbars, is you can grab them and you can move them. There we go. You have to get a hold of them. Sometimes they don't seem like they want to be that cooperative. And we move it over here. There we go. Let's move this back here to standard place. Okay. First up, as you notice, when you hover over an object here, it tells you exactly what that particular component of the toolbar does. Here, new chart. Next one is profiles. Back to the default. On profiles, new profile 1, profiles, candlestick profile 1. And our standard here, EURUSD candlestick profile 1. Okay, now we can go here, and what this will do is it will toggle open and close the market watch window. Okay, there we go, market watch. Okay, and while we're here at the market watch window, let's just expand that out so you see what that looks like. Also down here you can see that you can take a look at a tick chart. Moving along. Close that back off. And I'll put it back over in its standard position. Right there. Now you can arrange this really any way you'd like. So if you want to toggle that off, you can do that. Leave that off as well. On to the next. Data window. Click here. And as we hover our mouse over the price, we can see the date, time, open, high, low, close, and volume of each of the bars right here. A lot more volume in the weekly bars, quite obviously. And daily, less volume, 4 hours. And hourly, of course, since that's our smallest time frame. We go back here and click again, and it closes the data window. Navigator, we can toggle the navigator along with the market watch off if we want 4 charts thusly. When we arrange those charts, we can simply go tile them that way. Now, if we want those market watch and navigator windows back, we click here, we click here. You see this is out of skew, so we go back over here and we're all set. Everything's looking good. Let's scroll back up here, give us more room in the navigator window down here. All right, terminal, that can be toggled on and off as well. Strategy tester for testing strategies. That's a more advanced topic. You're going to test strategies, that's always a good thing. Oftentimes, when you make the purchase or lease of a commercially available Forex expert advisor, they give you ways to backtest their own strategy. So you may want to experiment with that as well. Meta editor, we've explored that before. And close that window. Expert advisors. This will activate an expert advisor if there happens to be one in that particular window. Matter of fact, let's take a look at how that works. I'll take the simple moving average advisor and I left click and drag it into the window here. I'll put on allow live trading. And as you can see here, there is an X through that. Okay, right through here. I'll go over here and click on Expert Advisor, and you'll see the smiley face. The smiley face indicates that the Expert Advisor is active and ready to go. Okay? So what I'll do is I'll go down here, Expert Advisors. All right. Now let's continue along to the new order window. All right, there's our new order window showing our bid and ask prices, also showing our buttons for buying and selling, either at the market, which is indicated by instant execution, or pending orders, which we have opportunities to do buy limits, sell limits, buy stops, sell stops, etc. And that covers the standard toolbar. Okay, we're going to pop right over here to the charts toolbar. Now, clicking on this transforms this chart into a bar chart. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this chart larger. Clicking on that takes it back to candlesticks again. Clicking on this makes it a line chart in which the line is composed of the closing prices of the bars of this particular period. This is an hourly bar, so those are all hourly closes there. Can zoom, make those candlesticks look nice and pretty. Can zoom out the other direction. Okay, and as you can see, zoom in. See how the chart pops over there. Zoom out. Now I want you to go back to the right. That's because this is set to on. That's auto scroll. You can toggle auto scroll off or on, and for our purposes currently we're leaving it on. Chart shift allows you to move the chart away from the right side, creating a bit of room in between the actual last price of the chart and the price listing here in this right hand column. Show you what that looks like. Where this comes in useful is if you're doing studies and say you have a trend line of some sort, you need more room to the right in order to see where the prices are going to go. So this gives you just a bit more room to the right if you're looking at that particular type of trend line. Now that was drawn arbitrarily for everyone who's saying, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't look like a legitimate trend line. And you can move that, kind of toggle it there. Okay, so I'll take that trend line, which is going to be on the objects list, and I'll just delete that, and I'll set that back to normal there. Okay, this is our indicator button right here. We can see lots of different indicators, also classified by the category of indicator: trend, identification indicators, oscillators. There's an example of stochastic, just show you a number of indicators on a chart. Oftentimes, traders will use indicators in combination and use one indicator to confirm the trend that is shown by another indicator. I was trying to think of the right way to say that, but it basically can be used as a confirmation mechanism. So it can, say for instance, we're looking at going long when the price closes above this particular moving average. Then we may look down at stochastics and we may say, well, that's over the 80 threshold. I may not want to go long at that particular place because it's already on the overbought side. Again, these are some general interpretations. At that point in time, perhaps I'd look to go long somewhere else where there's good confirmation that the indicators are lined up and that I have the best possible opportunity for a move in my chosen direction. Okay, so let's take these off. Delete the indicator, and we're back down here to normal. Okay. All right, so that's very handy. You can add as many of these as you want. It also shows your custom indicators, ATR, which is average true range, ATR period. Is very, very handy indicator. It's basically an indicator of volatility. This is a 14 period average true range, and when the average true range goes up, means the market is more volatile. When the average true range goes down, means the market is less volatile at that particular time. And as you can see here, this lower average true range for this particular time period, and you look at the chart and you see the types of, well, we scroll back automatically, but you see the types of bars that we're looking at right there. So that's another handy indicator. Okay, go to indicators list. Now indicators, they're like anything else, again, and I'm certain we'll have an opportunity to chat about this in the future, but indicators are like anything else. They are a tool. Some people prefer to use that tool. Other people prefer to not use that tool because of strange experiences they may have had. But it makes sense that some people will be successful using indicators, others won't. Using the right tool for the job is the correct thing to do. Trying to use a screwdriver to nail a nail into wood is not the correct way to go, and therefore make certain that you are using the right indicator for your desired results. Templates. Another great quick way of grabbing some templates here. Go down to bar chart. Here's our bar chart template that we used. Candlesticks 1 is our standard candlesticks template, so you can always access templates there very, very quickly. Now our next section is the line studies toolbar. And here, this is our standard cursor. Let's go here to this nice little crosshair. As you can see here, little crosshair. Here's a vertical line. You draw a vertical line for a number of reasons. Perhaps you're interested in looking for some type of period where you're looking for periods of tops and periods of bottoms, etc., etc., trying to time things along that particular way, or you're trying to identify maybe, I want to turn off auto scroll, an area of consolidation perhaps, and you want to say look at something along these lines. So okay, when we get out of this particular spot right here, that would be good. We'll be breaking out of that little consolidation. Again, that's just off the cuff example. You can hit Control B, or you can right click to get the objects list and delete all those objects just like that. Auto scroll's not on, so let's remember that. Okay, horizontal line, same thing. This is good for observing levels of support and resistance. You see support forming down here, resistance forming up here, more resistance, bouncing off that level, and staying in this kind of wide channel. Double click on any of the lines, horizontal or vertical, or you can double click on it to see the properties, or you can right click, go to horizontal lines properties, and change the properties there. Or there's another way to do it. Go to the objects list, find the horizontal line. This is 1350. That's the current one we're working on, but just to show you, you can see right there that it says horizontal line 1350. I don't think I'm as good at double clicking on it as most people are. But you can change the value of this as well as some of the simple parameters here, the thickness, etc. So we pop it in here, and let's say we want to change this horizontal line to this area up here, 1.49780. 1.49780 should pop right up to that line there. And you can also alternatively hold down your left mouse button and drag the horizontal line as well. If I wanted to go to a specific price, it's just easier for me to type the price in. Sometimes if I'm trying to drag it to a precise place, even as I'm trying to do this here now, and I'm getting I get pretty close. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. So you've got to, now you see it's still not the exact number. It's 1.49779 rather than 1.49780. But it is close, but when you want precision, it seems simpler to type that number in. I'm going to go here to Objects List. I'm going to select both of those and delete both of those objects. Let's continue on to the trend line. Very, very handy tool. And let's grab ourselves a trend line. Trend lines are used to see when there are changes. Now you left click and then you angle your trend line the way you want it to go. And the trend line should contain the bulk of the prices in any direction. You can see it falling out of the trend here and consequently making some downside movement there. Okay. So you can also take the trend line, double click it for trend line properties, and set the value of each of these if you want to do that. Actually, it's easier for me to kind of move the trend line the way I want it to go. Maybe simplest for you to do this as well. So, but that's that. Okay, objects list, delete the trend line. There we go. All right. Next, we're going to explore the equidistant channel. Okay. There we go. There we go. Okay. It's just an example. It's one of those things that when you place your anchor somewhere, you have to watch what you're doing. So we probably should, let's just do that again, just so you'll see. I'll delete that one. Go up here, we'll grab this, and I left click here, and then I drag. It's easier to do it from a lower point, but hold on. Here we go. Hold on one moment. Equidistant channel. Left click. And go back around to here. Okay, there's the parameters of the channel. Since you got two lines, you've got a couple of different values there that you can change as well. Just a simple trend channel. You could do the same thing with two different trend lines, of course, or the same type of thing. I don't like how that one's come out, so let me delete that. But let's grab it just so you'll see. There we go. And grabbing another one. Start off down here. Again, the same type of thing, so just so you'll see. All right. And there we are. We're back. Now we're going to move on to Fibonacci retracement. Okay, so I'll click here. I'll pick a point that I want to start at, and we'll start right here. I'll left click, and I'll go to my other point, my secondary point, and I'll let go. And here are all of the Fibonacci retracement lines right here. See, it comes up 23, 38.2. There's basically 50% retracement. 61, all the way back to 100. Now, isn't it interesting how it comes up to 100 and then completely reverses, goes back down, basically a 100% retracement of this prior move right here, and then starts to move back up again, back up to the 100% level. Again, that's how many traders get into and out of trades based upon Fibonacci extensions as well as Fibonacci retracements. Let's go here, objects list, and here, let's select it. You can edit it as well. See Fibo levels, you can set the levels up here. The values of your 2 points as well. I'm going to delete that, and we're going to move on to the next part of the line studies menu. Text. Click text, and there we have text. So if you want to label something, now this particular text label is text, but you could change that to anything you want. More text, for instance. There we go. You can move the text around as well if you want to. And lots of other things you can do with the text properties. You can see here, you can change the color of it. I'm going to go with teal, no problem. You want to change the name of it, you can do that too. Call it text 2010, for instance. You see when you hover over it, that's the text label that it has as well. I just hit delete. Text label. You want to label something in particular. Top left corner gives you lots of different places you can place things here. Okay, let's just hit this. Now this is different than just straight text because, as you can see, this label does not move as we go back and forth on the chart. So where the label is back here. There we go. And that can be handy if you want to label, say you're having a particular study, and you might want to call it moving average studies, for instance. Okay, there we go. Sorry, consistency there. And it could be set up here as moving average studies. Pretty straightforward. Very handy as well. The fact that it doesn't move is nice. You won't have to change that that text label all the time. Okay, just highlighted it, hit delete. And here we have some arrows. Let's take a look at some of these. Objects list. See what kind of changes we can make to this. Determine how thick the arrow is, etc., what color it is. You want to change it to teal or green, you can do that. You can see right here. I keep calling it an arrow. It's thumbs up. Indicates anything that indicates a direction with a point on the end, I typically refer to as an arrow. Let's hit a thumbs down. You might want to color your thumbs down red. Check sign, stop sign, up arrow. And that's handy too when you're doing your studies and you want to indicate that, okay, this is where things moved in this particular point. So, same thing goes for down studies. And stops. So if you're selling short, you may want to place a stop up here. And the nice thing about this is you can delete all arrows pretty effortlessly. That's a good thing. All right. That's line studies. Now the next toolbar is what's known as the periodicity toolbar. And you can simply refer to it as the time frame toolbar as well. So here we go. You can change the time frame of any chart simply by clicking on any of these. But you can also do it over here. So it's simple to, I'll turn on auto scroll again. Monthly, weekly, daily, 4 hour, 1 hour, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 5. Takes a little bit longer to draw. And then a 1. Okay. And this was actually our standard 1 hour chart, so that's it. That's the periodicity menu, and that's how that works. So we've covered. Now the 1 minute data takes a little while to draw, so that's why you'll see this move here as it's working to read the data. All right. There's 1 minute data. It can be resource intensive too. So looks like it. I had another window pop up in the background. So here we are, back to 1 hour. That's our standard. Back here, we've now explored the 4 toolbars: standard toolbar, the charts toolbar, the line studies toolbar, as well as the periodicity toolbar. You've got a lot of MetaTrader knowledge under your belt. How to change your charts, how to change groups of charts, lots of different things here. How to add an expert advisor to the chart, how to add an indicator to a chart, etc. How to add groups of indicators to a chart. So you are well informed and should be able to work your way around MetaTrader as well as anyone. You are now in a position to start to study the markets and benefit from the fact that MetaTrader is a freely available client terminal with data available from a variety of brokers to allow you to study the markets. Stay a student of the markets and enjoy the process of learning to profit in the exciting world of Forex trading. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Risk Control training module. Risk control is very important. In fact, without proper risk control, nothing else you do in Forex trading will matter. Nothing. Let's explore an example of improper risk control. If you start off with an account, say $5,000. You've got a $5,000 account, ready to trade Forex. You're excited. You jump into a trade, and the trade is risking $2,500. you should hear a big buzzer go off in your head that goes, eh, bad trading idea. Bad trading idea. BTA, as we call them. If you do this, this means basically that it only takes 2 consecutive trades to take you completely out of the game. Our objective is not to be taken out of the game. Our objective is to set up a solid foundation and be able to survive the times when our trading methodologies aren't exactly in sync with the market, and we end up having the inevitable losing trade, or trades for that matter. 2 consecutive trades, 3 consecutive losing trades. These are not unusual in Forex trading. And wrap your mind around that, because losses are a natural part of it. We'll talk more about losses as we go through live examples as well. Okay, so here we are in MetaTrader. We've got everything set up. We're talking about risk control. Okay, so what do we do to control our risk? Great question. What we do to control our risk is first determined by the trading system that we're using. Now, conservatively, many suggest that you risk between 1 and 3% of your available capital per trade. So, say we're in this screen and we're looking to trade the euro dollar US dollar, and we have $5,000 we're using as a standard here in this particular case in our account. So on one side of that, 3% would be $150. So what does that mean in terms of market movement? That's very important. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go up to the 1 hour chart here, and we're going to maximize that chart. Then we're going to go up and we're going to zoom in just one touch. And you'll notice that now that we've maximized this chart, the other charts are maximized too, weekly and so forth. Okay? All right. Now, as a for instance, let's take a look at the weekly chart, and let's click on the zoom in here. I'll wait one moment while you do that on your chart. What we'd like to look at is market movement. We're looking at a candlestick chart setup here, and we want to look at market movement in order to get a feel for the types of risks in the different time frames. This is very important because, well, if we're risking 3%, we're risking $150. Well, quite naturally, we couldn't use a standard lot size of $10 per pip in the euro dollar US dollar because, well, I guess we could, but that would be not very many as far as pips is concerned. It'd be a small move, in other words, basically. So we're talking about 15 pips, and giving the market 15 pips of room to move that's a scalping kind of setup. And if we're doing scalping and the trading system that works for it, then that's fine. But if we're looking for time frames, we're trying to evaluate which time frame we should trade in. And let me hold on one moment and clarify why I'm talking about time frames. Because the larger the time frame, like the weekly being the largest time frame here in our set of charts, the more room the market will need to move in order for it to go through its natural gyrations. Now, I'm going to pop here, and we're going to go into custom indicators, and we're going to scroll down to ATR. And I'm just going to set that at 10. So set yours at 10 as well. Okay, what's going to pop up is this blue line down here. If you want to, we can make that blue line a little thicker, if I'm not mistaken. Will it give us an opportunity to do that? Yes, it will. Here we go. Hold on. Okay. Colors. Doesn't look like it's going to give us an opportunity to make that thicker. That's okay. This is fine for our purposes. We'll take a look at the blue line then. Okay. So let's take a look at the values here as we're looking around. In fact, let's go up here, click on data window, and you'll see that our ATR, our average true range, is listed right here as we scroll along each of these weekly prices. Now, the average true range is the average of the true range. And the true range is described as the greatest of one of the three of the following: the difference between the current high and the current low, and that's commonly called simply the range; the difference between the current high and the previous close, or the difference between the current low and the previous close. Whichever one of those is greatest is the value that we'll get. Now let's take a look. Okay, we're on the weekly chart, and we're looking at the average true range. And as you can see over here, 0.0252. And if we look at that, that's 252 pips. That one, 256 pips. 257. Again, we're looking at the average. If we come down to places like this, you see how big those ranges are. And over here, almost 600 pips. Big, very big. And that's, again, that's an average. So this is obviously going to be bigger than that, but we're averaging in those previous true ranges as well. You can see from this example that if you're trading on weekly charts, that you're going to need room for the market to move. Now, there's a few ways you can do this and give the market room, but with a $5,000 account, trying to trade a standard lot with a 15 pip stop is not going to work very well. It's not going to work very well. So what we're going to do here is let's go to a daily chart, for instance, and let's expand that. Okay, auto scroll brings us back, and let's do the same thing there. Let's go down and grab our average true range. We'll do 10 period. There we go. What are we looking at here? Okay. We're looking at some smaller numbers here. Looking at some smaller numbers, but we're still looking at the 100 plus pip range, not the 15 pip range. You can see that's really something. So that's 100, 100, 100, 100. Okay. So let's move on to the next time frame. And we'll pull this down to ATR. Okay, here we go. Click on OK. I'm going to click that to expand that a bit. Okay. All right. There we go. We're looking at 60, 50. That's a big one there. Again, these are averages. 40. Okay, so this is looking a lot more reasonable for the type of trading we're talking about with regard to the type of risk control that we need. But this would still, even the 4-hour would be too much for trading a standard contract with a $5,000 account with a 15 pip stop. Again, adhering to the 3% rule. So we're going to move down to 1 hour, and we'll do the same thing as we did before. ATR. And I'm simply changing this to 10 periods for the sake of consistency here. Okay. All right, you see much more reasonable ATRs here. Okay, and the ranges perhaps that we're talking about, still not giving us much buffer room as far as that's concerned. But at least we see how the different time frames show us different ranges of price movement per bar. So let's close this down. Close down this window. And go back here. Now let's say that the trading system that we've chosen does use daily charts, and we want to trade using the daily charts. But we see the sizes of some of those moves as we move along here. There's a few ways that we can control our risk. It depends on what the system is and what it dictates as far as the price movement is concerned. So for instance, if we are trading a daily system and the system has a stop loss of 100 pips, then we quite obviously can't use a standard contract for that, because that would mean that that 100 pip risk that we're taking would end up being the 100 times the $10 per full size pip. So that'd be $1,000. That $1,000 would be 1/5 or 20% of the total $5,000. And that would be too great of a risk per trade. So what we'll do is we'll trade the daily chart, but what we'll have to do is we'll have to scale our level of leverage as far as volume is concerned. So rather than going with one full-size contract, if for instance we went to something that was 1/10 of that size for our 100 pip stop, then it would put us right inside of our 3%. So let's go over the logic in this. The trading system, the one that is our virtual imaginary trading system that we're saying that we'd like to trade, uses daily charts and uses a 100 pip stop. We can't trade that using a standard size contract because it wouldn't take very many consecutive losing trades in order for us to blow our account completely out of the water. So what we do is the smart thing, and we scale down in order to still trade on the daily chart by giving the system the necessary amount of room. So rather than risking the $1,000 per trade, we're risking $100 per trade by setting ourselves up in this fashion. So the $100 per trade turns out to be 2% of our total account equity at the start of trading. This is fine. We're able to do that. We're able to trade on a larger time frame chart, be it daily, be it weekly, as long as we're inside of our risk parameters, not going outside of that 3% of account equity. Some people will go to 5, and actually the higher the percentage of your account equity you risk per trade, the greater probability of blowing your account out, the greater your risk of ruin, basically. Some people call that ROR. But as you can see here, we can control our risk with virtually any account size, as long as the broker that you're using allows flexibility in the size of the trades that you place. And as it turns out, we have good flexibility here in the size of the trades that we place. So that's good. That's good to know. I'm going to set this back to the standard. But that's basically some risk control guidelines in a nutshell. Now, if you go to smaller time frames, if say, let's pop this up, and let's pop, we're going to do that, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. Okay. All right. Now, we're looking at an extremely short time frame here. This is 5 minutes. Many people do scalp, and scalping is defined as grabbing a small number of pips, and small is relative, but for instance, 100 pips is not a scalp. So 100 pips profit is not a scalp by any stretch of the imagination. 100 pips is bigger than a scalp. 5, 10, 3, 7, 12 pips, that's scalping. So in here, as we're moving along, if you take a look here, if you're trading on a short time frame, small time frame, then as you look over to the ATR window there, you look at, we can look here too, you can see 11, 10, 10. So the market moves in a smaller range in a smaller time frame. So you can trade on a chart of this type of time frame and allow the market room to move with a smaller number of pips. See, the objective is to be able to have a trade go profitably and not come back and knock us out of the trade by hitting our risk control measures. So we have to have enough room in there for the trade to move without just the regular noise of the market knocking us out of trades. We don't want to set our stop loss, which is our risk. This is the amount that we're risking, and say it's 100 pips for a certain type of chart. On a daily chart, if we set our stop loss to 1 pip, we would just get stopped out over and over and over and over and over and over again. So that makes a stop of that magnitude for that time frame pointless. So let's go back here to hourly, close the data window. That is a brief introduction to risk control. Also an introduction to the wonderful scalability of Forex, which allows us to trade different lot sizes based upon the risk control that we need for our particular account size. Thank you very much for joining us in this module, and I hope you found this to be very, very helpful. Let me emphasize again that the most important thing you can do is to get control of your risk. Once you get control of your risk and you have the discipline to continue to control your risk, you will be miles ahead of Forex traders worldwide. Thanks again. Hello and welcome to our first actual trade example, just to show you how trading works here inside of MetaTrader. Okay, we're going to pop up here, and what I'm actually going to do is I want to sell. This is basically, just consider this to be a random trade to show you the order process. I want to sell here, but what I want to do is I want to place a stop up here above the previous week's high. Let's find out what that was. The previous week's high was 1.50598. So I'm going to place a short order. I'm going to sell, and I'm going to place a stop up above that high, 5 pips in fact above that high. Okay, so placing that 5 pips above would be 1.50648. So this is what we're going to do. Going to place a new order, and I'm going to sell at the market. And since we're using a certain size of an account, if I were to use the standard size, then that stop would be out of reach. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to use this size. Okay. You can see that I'm moving the stop over here, just so you'll see. Now, here's another way to do that. You can simply type that in, 50598. Sorry about that. 50648. That's what we're actually after. Okay. Instant execution, comment. And the comment here is first live trade example. Placing an order. Okay. Like to have, oh, that's all the that's all it let me do there. Okay, so live trading example, first live trading example, and here we go. I'm going to sell at the market. Oh, there we go. It says successful. I'm going to press OK. And you can see from up here that we are officially short. And let's go down here to account history, mailbox, trade. Okay. We are short from this price, 1.48388, around here. There's our stop loss. We don't have a price target in currently. You could see how this is moving. If this was a full-size contract, it'd be moving further against us, but it is not, so we're okay. So we're moving along quite fine. Okay, so here's a way to determine range too when you're looking for places to set your stops. You go to ATR down here, go to your indicator list. There's ATR, and set that period to 1, like so. You see the previous week, the average true range is 233 pips. So that's actually a pretty small range. You see that the current week, it's 380 pips. And this is just on this particular, we're just talking about this particular bar right here. And in fact, if you go over to, let's put it here, this area here, and subtract the low from the high, that's the number that you'll get. That verifies that that's the range. What that number lets you know is the simple range from the high to the low. And that range is important because if you're trading based upon that range and you're saying, okay, I want my stop based upon price action, so when if the market moves back up here and breaks the highest high, then I want to be out because the momentum has shifted from downward to upward. Now this is a big time frame. Weekly is a big time frame for anyone to trade. That's why we've scaled ourselves correctly to this particular size. And as you can see, even though the market's moved against us, hasn't cost us very much, has it? Has not cost us very much. And that's the whole point of doing this particular exercise, giving you a feel for risk control, how to find out the range of the particular market that you're trading too. That's always important. And then you have an opportunity to measure things like risk reward. So if you're measuring risk reward, you might look at this and say, okay, look, here we are. We're right here. I'm risking 233 pips. And you might say, I like a 1-to-1, or I like to risk 233 pips to make twice as much, to make 466 pips. So you'd place a profit target down here. Again, we don't have an exit already set up because this is a simple trade entry example, and that's it. Okay, we're back, and as you can see, the market has moved against us somewhat. If this were standard, we'd be looking at a larger loss, 10 times that amount, or $100, which is nothing to be shaking in our boots about, of course. So this is what we'll do. We're having a good time in a live trading example, so let's put in a profit target. What I'll show you how to do here is to take your order and modify it. And we'll add a profit target here. So if we're looking at risking roughly 233 pips or so, then let's make our profit make our profit 466 pips. So if we go below, we're going to base this on our entry point, 43728. Okay. So we're going to modify that, take profit, and click modify. All right. Okay, we sell at that, which we're already in. Stop loss is set. Take profit is there. Let's go OK. There we go. This shows our take profit point, which is right down here. Not exactly close, but we're looking at something that's twice the size of what we're risking here. So if you look at that, the distance from the entry to the stop, this is twice the size of that. And again, for the purposes of example. So what we're going to do is we're going to let this trade develop. I'm going to close our data window here. And I'm going to take a look at the trade on a smaller time frame. Okay, we don't have to watch our price down here constantly, but we can if we want to. We can bunch this up a little bit. Okay, so it's good to see where our stop loss is. You can see our stop loss is just above the high action here back about a week ago or so. So we're here, and we sold right here, which was right at a previous high. Now, if it does break through and go up, then we've got potential previous high. It may go up to here before we encounter some slowdown in the trade, some resistance, and we'll have an opportunity to talk about support and resistance as well. Okay, the auto scroll pops back. So you can see here the market is continuing to move up past our entry here. So we're going to leave this and we'll come back to it and we'll see how this trade develops, and we'll have an opportunity to do a lot more live examples. Of course, this is our first live trade. It's our first sort of jumping in there example. There are no methods for anyone to copy or emulate. This is an example only. So we'll see you in the very next module with an update on the current trade.